Welcome to today's morning rant. Hope all is well. Hope all is well. Man, so I've been thinking a lot today. I was watching a couple different podcast segments. I was, talking to the homie about past relationships and just so many things. And it, it started to make me realize that when it comes to men or women, you might not be that you might not be that person, you not him, or in a female sense, you not her. So I'm gonna kind of start by sharing something. One of my cousins was telling me about this older lady he deal with. So I'm just gonna kind of lay the foundation real quick. So my cousin, he messed with this. He's black. He's always been an attractive individual, but somebody that just, doesn't work, doesn't have income like that. So he always, had women that wanted to like take care of him, whatever the case may be. So he's dealing with like this older white lady, probably like, maybe like 20 years older, more or less, right? And she got the bag. She got a lot of money. And always every time he tells me about like how these women that take care of him, how they be complaining, I'd be like, bro, you sound like these females be complaining about you like how most dudes complain about these women. So he was just sharing with me like, he liked to go out all the time and like, and how this older lady, she always, you know, questioning him and getting mad, about how he moving. And so, he got the leverage in the relationship, because, she's older, he's attractive. A lot of women want him. And so, in his mind, he could kind of do what he want, and she just kind of got to deal with it. But, um, I was just thinking about like all the things he was saying she be complaining about. He like, man, bro, I'm about to leave this chick, man. I'm tired of chicks feeling like they can control me because they got some money. And I'm just like, man, you the big, in my mind, it's like, bro, you like, eh, watch, seeing how he play women, you know, educated me on how a lot of us men look stupid, trying to force a situation because a woman, whether a woman look good or you comfortable, whatever the case may be, like, he always showed me the true dynamic of like how we are in relationships. And so, he'd be complaining, he'd be saying like, man, she want me to be up under her all the time. Um, he was like, I don't fuck her all the time. Salute to everybody in chat. He'd be like, I don't fuck her all the time. She be mad because I don't be want to fuck her. And it's just like, damn, it's crazy because dudes be complaining about, how they could be with a chick and she don't want to fuck him. I'm just learning game by his situation. So she complaining like he don't want to have sex with her. He don't want to be up under her all the time like that because she old. She old, but she got money, and they got a nice big old house, whatever the case may be. So the reason I'm bringing that up was because if she doesn't see both, she doesn't see both sides. Salute, Rona. She doesn't see both sides. All she sees is how he's acting towards her, but she doesn't see the bigger picture. Because if she was to complain to her friends about him, she'd be like, he's always trying to be out. He doesn't do. He's not showing affection. We're not having sex. You know, and if they break up, if they break up, or when they break up, she's probably gonna think the breakup is because of how reality. The reason why he's the way he is because she's not that girl. She's not her, you know. And so, and about this being family and me knowing him personally, like I know, like if it was a woman that would get him to be a certain way, she would have to be that. She would have to be that chick, and she not. So conversely, when it comes to men, I was watching a segment on the Peef, and they was talking about, how can somebody leave a 15-year marriage, and I know guys that you know that's been married and they wife wanted out after so long, and the common denominator is that these women, they ended up being in a relationship. um Even my college sweetheart, we was together 5 years. I went away to Houston for a year, and then she ended up being with somebody that she worked with. And so it made me think, and I was a bad guy when I moved to Houston. Like I wouldn't, like, I wasn't no saint, what I mean, I wasn't giving her attention. I wasn't, what I mean, I really wasn't giving her what she needed. But at the end of the day, as as men, we can't always, even if we did wrong, we can't always say that because of the wrong we did was because she left or she cheated or moved on to another guy. You know what I mean? That's just that's just the excuse that can be used for them to justify the moving. But at the end of the day, you know, when I think about when I think about it like this, like my college sweetheart, the dude that she ended up being with at the time, he might have had more money. You know what I mean? He might have had a bigger dick. I don't know that. You know what I mean? He might have looked better. He might have been in better shape. He might have been whatever the case may be. He may have filled some void or showed her something that she never seen before. You know, and so at the end of the day, instead of me just saying like, man, I was messing with other chicks in Houston. I wasn't giving her attention, which was all true. At the end of the day, I wasn't him. I had to just realize, like, what, I just wasn't him. Because if I was him and there was nobody else that woman could see herself with, if I was doing her wrong, not necessarily me, she might necessarily, force herself to stay in a situation she's not happy in. But if she leaves, she's gonna leave empty handed. She's gonna leave, what I mean, with no backup plan or nobody else in mind. But most women don't do that. Most women do not leave a situation they're not happy in to be lonely. What I mean? It's very rare. It's very rare. They'll leave, they'll leave and say, I don't, it ain't nobody else. I got other things going on. I'm not thinking about no man. And then a few months later, what I mean, they in a situation. And the fact that women do, Kim Kardashian is another example. When she left Kanye, all these chicks, that end up moving forward. Um, uh, Guys talk about hypergamy and stuff like that, but a lot of times it's just you just not him. I know chicks. I know chicks personally that have had a dude. They was highly attracted to him, highly attracted to his sex. He went to jail, and they ain't mess with no other niggas while he was in jail. You know, because in their mind, the dude that they with, he's that dude. Salute to the chat, man. Salute J everything. Drew said dating and wife are two different scenarios. Wife is more of a commitment. That's true. But women, I've come to the conclusion that women don't see a difference between marriage and non-marriage situations based on the data. Based on the data. So, what I want guys to kind of take away is that um, when women the way women move, um, a lot of times it's because you're not him. You're not him. Um, even though I don't follow a lot of what Fresh and Fitz talk about. One thing Myron said holds true. He said if a woman cheats on you, she doesn't respect you. And that that is very true. It don't matter why she cheated. It don't matter if she cheated because you cheated. It don't matter if she cheated because of she felt like she wasn't getting some attention. It doesn't matter if it was the relationship was still fresh. If a woman cheats on you, you not him. You are not him. You are not him. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Um, yes. Have I cheated on women? Yes. Have there been women I haven't cheated on? Yes. You know. Um, and so no woman is void from being cheated on. You know. Even the women I didn't cheat on, it could have been a scenario where I probably could have, but at the end of the day, the women I didn't cheat on, um, it was just something just so profound about them. I'll feel stupid. You know what I mean? I would be cheating downward. You know, um, I'll be cheating downward. You know, um, yeah. My son's mother, for example, she was a woman. She was so bad. It wasn't no chick that could really turn my. It wasn't a chick that could really entice me like that. You know what I mean? Like at least sexually, everything checked the boxes sexually. So, and I think has a lot to do with men too. It's about checking the boxes. Women cheat emotionally for the most part, physical second. Men cheat physical first, emotional needs second. So you know if you're not checking all the boxes, what I mean, a woman is gonna do that. The difference between women and men is we're 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 more vocal, we're more transparent on why we cheat, when we cheat, and how we cheat. Women are not. You know, women are very private on how they move. Drew said Kim K is a good example of hypergamy. You can only put up with someone's crazy, but for so long. Her husband stopped taking his meds. Not sure I agree with that. Human nature, we just do it. Salute, Marquise. Um, yeah, well, Kim K definitely wasn't. She didn't have to move up financially because Kanye, Kanye was that dude financially. But if you look at if you take a look back, right, Kim K, a highly attractive woman, and Kanye, even though he got money, he's not the prototypical guy women would lust over, right? So and they were saying Pete, was whole, he packing down there, you know what I mean? That was kind of the rumors, but he wasn't that dude. He's not that dude at the end of the day. You know, a lot of women, look at LeBron wife, look at Beyonce. Jay-Z, you know, for Beyonce, for what be it's all subjective. For what Beyonce wanted or looked for in a man, Jay-Z was that boy, or in Philly, that bull. He was that bull. But a lot of men, we have our egos, but we have to realize that we are not him to some women. And I got to think about this and have another conversation to kind of talk about how do you know, or how could you know when you're that dude for her, when you are him, when you check all her boxes, because a woman to make you feel like you check all the boxes, you know she'll make you feel that way, and even if you don't. So that's something that we gotta that's something I'm gonna think about more and more. 'Cause when it comes to the travel space, a lot of the people that are critics of the past were bros, and they talk about, well, if you want a woman in the US or a woman in general, you gotta, have your shit together, whether it's financial, whether it's physically, whether it's charisma, all those things. But even if you have all those things, it still doesn't mean that any woman is going to think you him. It's not. It's not. It's not. Um, by the time you finish high school or college, by the time you hit 25, between 25 and 30, you have enough data to know like what type of chicks is in your lane. You kind of have an idea, you know. You kind of have an idea. And so knowing that once you start making more money and you start attracting women that you wasn't attracting before, I mean, you kind of have to question that. You have to kind of question that. And so the reason why I brought up the first example of my cousin with the older white lady is because she probably thinking she pulled a very attractive young black man, but he's out of her league, from a physical standpoint, and she's being ran through the ringer because she's getting this attention from a man that out of her league. He probably checks a lot of boxes for her, but she doesn't check a lot of boxes for him. She just got money, and he just, what I mean, he played the game so well. He done got bands out of her. A lot of money. I'm just like, man, you know, I wish I could live. I ain't gonna say I wish, but the way he how women take care of him, man, is it's amazing in a lot of ways. Let's see. Marty said him can attract women in any country regardless. That is very true. That's very true. Whack 100 says social media open Pandora's box. Women just have too much access. That is very true as well. Oh, he said pause. Pause. Yeah, pause, man. If I made a pause statement. He said men need to just take it easy and approaching women in the States. Only move forward when you are what do you say? Getting heavy choosing signals. Yeah, heavy choosing signals, man. And you still gotta be where it at. And like I used to be like, man, can't nobody take my girl, or what I mean? I used to have that mindset, like, but I found myself in situations where I know women that, you know, are married or close to being married, or like like this one young girl, she messing with this older guy. She's like in her mid 20s. He's like in his early 50s. What I mean? He's old enough. He's basically like around her father age. And she was like, I wanted us to be together, but you was, you had a situation, blah blah blah, and you wasn't serious or whatever the case may be. So she's talking to me, and she's saying like how she likes the man that she's with. But at the same time, I'm like, man, the way I'm talking to her, I could, what I mean, if I presented the opportunity, she would leave him for me, and it's just like, wow. Like she'd be posting on her statuses how he be treating her, and she'd be like, I feel like a princess. But at the same time, I could reach out to her and be like, what I mean, I could just tell her like I do those things and more, what I mean, just be with me. And I would be able to entice her from him, which is crazy, right? Which is crazy. But the point is that she's with a man that's making her happy, but at the same time, he's not him. He's not him. Yo, what's good, solo traveler? What's good, man? He said for sure. She said for our mental health, we analyze um, the direct actions of modern. You're right. You're right. This only keeps vibration low, and it show external. Yeah, that's why I be catching myself. I'll be like, man, there's no point of analyzing these chicks. Like, just recognize who they are. You know, Ramil, shout out to Ramil. He always say, guys need to stop SBEing, shame, blame, and explaining. Trying to figure stuff out. I used to have a homie, he'll call me, be like, man, these chicks, man. That's his first statement when he called, man, these chicks. I'm just like, bro, I'm tired of talking about these chicks, man. Like, don't, they getting too much energy, man, trying to figure them out. Like, their nature, their nature can be, described, very in simplistic ways. You know, they are the weaker gender when it comes to being deprived. When a man is deprived, let me see. When a man is deprived in a relationship versus a woman being deprived in a relationship, a man can fight through those temptations. You know what I mean? He will redirect his focus on other things. A woman, when she's deprived, what I mean, she's gonna break faster. This is why um I think I heard an FBI agent say women snitch more than men do when it comes to being under pressure. They break. Women break. I mean, Eve proved that. What I mean, Eve was the weaker, proved to be the weaker gender when it comes to temptation. When it comes to temptation, you know, women will say, "Well, men easily are weaker when it comes to sex." Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sex, we can be weak, but I think men already make that de- determination. The decision is already made before the temptation is even there. You know what I mean? Let's see. Indifference is your best weapon against them. But yeah, before my signal get too crazy, get too choppy, man. I'm gonna wrap it up, man. But yeah, I just wanted to rant about it, man. But I want guys to just realize and think about it, man. You know, you might not be him, and I'm gonna do a follow-up stream and talk about, how you are him, and who is or what is him. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Peace out.